Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for coming. There are I heard 200 speakers, so there are a lot of rooms you can go. So thank you so much for coming. And my name is Yuko Shimizu. I'm a Japanese illustrator. I'm based in New York. And I've been, thank you. I've been illustrating for about 20 years now. So today, first thing first. So if you are here thinking you came to hear about the creation of Hello Kitty, you're in the wrong room. I found out maybe 10 years ago, the first creator of Hello Kitty was named Yuko Shimizu. And my name is very common. So in American equivalent is Emily Smith or something. So it's not, I'm not surprised at all, but I know my name sounds very exotic and uncommon, but it's very, very common. So with AI, summarizing, scraping off of the internet, it has gotten worse recently. And so I get all these crazy, sometimes very weird emails. So if you came to hear about Hello Kitty, you know how I feel about Hello Kitty from these. This is my personal work, just to express my love toward this beloved cat. So anyway, we're all good? Do you need to leave? Okay. If you need to leave, you can leave now. So with that, I will talk about, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've learned a lot. And there are a lot of things I learned as I go, or I learned in school, but later on I realized I never thought of this while in school. So I want to really talk about that. And so it is mainly for younger. When I say young, it's not the age, it's the experience. Younger creatives who may be working freelance or want to work in freelance, and try to give you as much advice from my experience as possible. And your 1 hour is very important. That's your 1 hour of your life. So I try to give you as useful information as possible, but you don't need to agree with everything. We are different. I mean, you, we're different. So if you can take away something from it, and that's enough for me. So with that, I'm sure you've been seeing a lot of beautiful artworks and cool techniques, but you will see probably the ugliest slide you will see in the whole Adobe Max, and here it goes. I always talk about this. This is a Google, well, you can tell, the Google Map street view of the actual office I worked in. Yes, what office? I'm an illustrator. No, illustration is my second career. I have a whole different career before this one. And so I'll explain a little bit. So this is the exact office that I worked in. When I was 17, 18 in Japan, I always loved to draw and paint. So, I'm an artsy kid. But then also in Japan, because of manga and anime, even I'm old, but even when I was growing up, that's what kids watched, and that's how kids drew. So a lot of kids drew. And for a lot of them, it was the phase. A lot of kids draw well, and it's the phase, and you grow up and do something else. So when I was 17, 18, and I was I want to go to art school. And I talked to my parents, and no, you're not going to art school, you will starve, right? Look at all these masters, someone chopped off the ear because he didn't have enough money. So that's your future, don't go to art school. And okay, so I could have said, this is what I want to do. But I was lost, regular 17-year-old. I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And then parents or people around me said oh, you draw well, but that's a phase. And I was like, okay, maybe that's a phase. So I ended up going to regular university and majored in business and specialized in advertising and marketing because I thought that was the most creative in the practical field. And with that, I graduated college and I got a job in a big corporation in Japan doing corporate PR. So that was me around when I was just starting to work. Steady paycheck, good benefit, relatively interesting work, nice coworkers. It was really hard to beat. And I talk about this because I rehearsed with my students before I came, and they were all 21, and then they went to school right away, art school right away. But whenever I do the public talk, there's someone always sitting here, and in Adobe Max's case, it's streamlined, so there might be people watching this somewhere in their office or apartment somewhere, thinking I'm watching Adobe Max, not necessarily just mine, but I'm attending Adobe Max because I'm not happy with my life and I want to change it, but it's really hard to let go of my stable job, or I'm really worried, jumping into creative career, or most importantly, a lot of us, and even myself included, think, am I too old to do that? So that's why I always talk about this and show my weird photo of me in the office. But anyway, so how was I able to leave the job? Because I actually stayed for 11 years, and it wasn't working out from day one. But I didn't know what I wanted to do. But then I turned 30, and oh my freaking God, I'm 30, I'm not a kid anymore. Is this the life I want for the rest of my life? And my answer was no, but then steady paycheck, good benefit. So what happened to me? Again, I talk about you using my experience as an example. So my example is not necessarily your example, but I think there's something I can provide you with. So here is the photo of someone I thank every day for being who I am today, being able to make a living as an illustrator, which is something I always wanted to do. But why is his face mosaiced? You know why, right? If I love this boss, his face is not mosaiced. And I will never, Adobe people's you're not gonna say his name, right? Of course not. I don't wanna get sued or anything. So this is my last boss, and he was completely mentally abusive to me. And so I was crying in the bathroom every day, last 2 years of my career. And, compared to some people going through war and all these tragedy, illness, family tragedy, my rock bottom is not that rock bottom, but you can't compare your hardships with other people because there are always people who have worse hardships than you. So you just have to compare you and your experience, how it felt like. So for me, at that point, 31, 32, I felt like I hit the rock bottom. And so what happened is, I didn't think of it back then. Looking back, it's when you hit the rock bottom, sometimes you see things clearly because there's no more bottom. You're on the bottom and the water looking up, and there's this clear water around you, and think. Either you stay on the bottom of this whatever water, or you can float up. So that hardship made me decide to finally able to leave my job. And then, I thought about I'm 30, well, when I left work, I was 34, but I'm 30 something. Is there something I really, really wanted to do? And is there the future I want to have? And that is not this. And that was when I realized I always loved to draw and paint, but I never pursued it. So I quit my job, packed up my 2 suitcases, and I moved to New York to attend School of Visual Arts, where I teach now. I've been actually teaching for 20 years. Don't calculate my age, I'm old. You can ask me later privately, or if you're good at math, like you can calculate easily how old I am. I'm not gonna lie, but anyway. So I was 34, my classmates are 18, because I never studied art, so I went to art school, freshman, the first year in college, for the first time, and I was like, oh my freaking God, these like young, bright kids know exactly what they want to do, while I wasted years and years doing what I did not want to do. And so I initially freaked out. But then, like, after a while, I realized when you decide to go back to school, because like school, it's a lot of work and a lot of commitment, and if you decide on your own to go back, you put effort in. Like, I'm like, give me homework, give me more work, be hard on me, give me critiques. So like, I was really ready. And also when I was like about to finally graduate from art school, which was my dream, and all my classmates are freaking out, like, which is understandable. I freaked out when I first graduated from college because you're in school ever since you remember and you get out. We all experience this if you're professionals. Like, it freaks you out. But I'm like, get me out, I'm ready. So what I'm trying to say is, like youth is currency, right? Like everybody knows it. Like when I started working, I didn't qualify to any of those like something under something because I'm over everything. But so like initially I felt like I'm old, but then like, wait, like, everyone knows youth is currency. Like it's great to be young. Like when you're young and you're the young hot thing, use that currency because it will go away. But then don't think of when you're older, you're starting something older, you're a slow learner, and then you're like maturing into whatever you want to do older. Like that is also currency because especially if you're a creative person, your life experience make your work interesting. And that is something we accumulate over experiencing things, not necessarily art, but life itself, right? And we don't, in this world, stress enough that being older, starting something older, you have something you want to do, like, no, you're not too old. You have the currency of life experience to make work that is interesting because you're interesting. And that is a currency, and I want you to know that. So, don't feel embarrassed about your day job. I have 11 years of day job. After I graduated art school, I started working right away, and like, some of my classmates said like, oh, Yuko, you're so lucky, you never had a day job. And like, what are you talking about? I just did it the opposite way. I did it before I started art school. So, like everything we experience in life, like I was a really bad waitress. Like I was an okay office worker, but everything we experience as a grown-up person to work in this world get us ready to run our small business. So one of the first things I realized after I graduated, which I should have noticed, but none of my teachers told me, is regardless of your fine artist, illustrator, or graphic designer, or whatever, if you're a freelancer, we're running our small business. So, like I dreamed about graduating and drawing and painting all day because that's our job. And like, no, half the time we're doing something, chasing invoices, negotiating next work or the contract. So those things we learn by doing other things. And, like our life experience, day jobs that really, really help you. So if you graduate, like I don't know if there is anyone here or in the streaming world, you're in school, If you have to get a day job, that is not something you love, do not get embarrassed. Like, it will teach you how to run our small business. And the next thing is, so yeah, I often think about regret. Why did I have to go to art school? I mean, I didn't have to. You know, you can be a thriving professional creatives even without art school degree. But I had to go to art school because I wanted to go to art school. I never went to art school, and I went to business school instead. So every time I met someone who went to art school before I went to art school, I got freaked out. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so inferior. This person did something I wanted to do, I never had a chance to do. So regret of doing something. You know, like, what if this art thing doesn't work out? It's fine, you tried it. You know, like, you can keep trying, or like you find something that's different. You know, because I studied business and advertising, I don't practice it, but I'm very happy. So like, you don't have to do what you studied. But what is important, like really important, is not having the regret of not doing something. That was the exact regret I had. The regret of not having gone to art school that makes me think, like, what if I went to art school? And the only way to overcome was to go to art school. So, you know, regret of doing something, great. Regret of not doing something, you gotta do it, and then don't think of it as too old. Like, regardless of you're 18 or 28 or like 48, whatever your age is, we are sitting here, all of us, we're the youngest right now. And we will be one day older tomorrow. So if there is anything you want to do, like, I really suggest you to try and don't think about age, because, you know, like, it's so cheesy, but it is so true. We only live once. So let's live the life that we don't regret, and then like do what we love. Okay, so the most often asked question, I teach art school at School of Visual Arts, so like I have 32 students this year, and then many, many students who have graduated. The most asked question is style. How did you find style? So I have a little bit of disclaimer. I don't like the word style because it feels like very kind of like superficial. It's like, oh, I found my style, I'm set, I'm gonna be fine. No, like, we're artists, we're gonna keep growing, keep changing. So I like the word personal voice. That was what my professors often used. But, you know, like, to make the talk easier, I'll use the word style in this talk. So let's go back to this picture a second. I mean, like, you know, like, I didn't have the angst teenage art phase because I didn't go to art school when I was 18. So I was like 34, you know, remember? I was 34 back then. Like, so I was making terrible art, but I think you gotta get something out to move forward. It's like, you know, try out different things. So I was really embarrassed. I started drawing with manga and anime, and I'm like, I think it's the next room is having video sessions. So like, we might have some interesting sound in the background. My talk doesn't have any sound recording. So any cool, interesting effect is coming from the back. But as long as you hear me okay, it's okay, right? Okay, so it's so weird. It's so weird. But anyway, oh my God, I got distracted. So when I started art school, I was really embarrassed. I started drawing with manga and anime because I really saw that, and I hated it, and I wanted to learn to draw and paint like Americans, which is funny thing. But this Judy, my professor, was the first person out of many, told me like, hey, like, you draw the way you draw. Like, look at your sketchbook. Like, this is how you draw. So embrace it and then learn the skills and build on top of it and make your work stronger. So this is kind of the first, other than the kitty one, like the work I show. But these are from my high school time. So like my high school art, and what I'm showing is like, I'm not gonna say like, oh, this is how I started. No, I found these. Well, my friends found these and like scanned and sent it to me. I was probably like 16 or 17 when I drew these. I wanted to be a sci-fi fantasy artist. Like, I love Boris Vallejo and then like, Frank Frazetta, if you know. But anyway, I found this and I was like, it's not TV, so I can, well, like, holy crap, whatever, okay, never mind. So like, this is my new work, the right side. Like, look at the planet, moon. It's not, like I opened up my work from like age 16, 17 to draw at age like 40 something. No, like I didn't think of this. I didn't look at these in decades. And then once I was sent, I was like, oh my God, I still kind of draw the same, but I mean, hopefully like much, much, much better, but kind of the same, right? Like, and then this is like when I started to realize, like I try my best to try to learn to paint and draw like Americans, and it didn't work out. And then of course it doesn't work out because that's not me. I'm not an American. I can't draw and think like Americans. So what I hated, how I draw, I still don't love the way I draw. I still don't love the way I make marks, lines. My drawings are not perfect. All these things combined, when I started with the help of, first initially from my professors, when I started to realize like, it is okay. I can't change who I am, but I can get better within who I am. Things started to work out. So like my advice to those of you who are here or like in the streaming world who are thinking like, how do I find style? Like, it's not floating outside you grab onto. Like, this is how you rethink how you make progress, A to B. It's easy, it's not easy, it's complicated, but you get to B. And then A and B are separated. And I started to realize, no, this is actually how it works, is your core never changes. So it's like a spiral stairs. Your core always exists as who you are. And then you kind of circle around, but not staying in the same place as long as you grow as an artist. But like you keep going around your core and get better. So I think when I was in school, like oftentimes we thought, like, where's my style? Where's my style? Is it here? Is it there? Right? But like it's actually in us. And the first step is to realize and be in peace with who we are and then build around it. So it's not floating outside, it's in us. So then like, but then like, okay, I got it, but like I have too many styles, I can't decide, like, like what do I do? Like this is like, these are some of the most commonly asked questions for my students. Okay, so I made this because like there's a very simple answer, I'll tell you, but it is very hard to do. It's simple to say, hard to do, and it's kind of like, because I don't want to disappoint any of my students, so I get like a little agitated saying what this is, but like, because, if I'm not gonna be honest, what's the point of you sitting here for 1 hour listening to me? So how many works have you made? I'm sure there are different creatives in the different fields sitting here. Like if you're an illustrator, they usually say like if you have like 15 to 20 really good works in your portfolio or like website, that's a good start. And then often like people come to me, my students come to me and like, I have 20. And then like, okay, but like how many else do you have outside? And then like if you're picking 20 from the 20, then like maybe that's not enough. So I spoke to a few different peers, illustrators, like before I made this presentation, like how many illustrations, small or big combined, we make a year to make a living as an illustrator. And we averaged out about 100. So some are big, some are small, some are tiny. You know, it doesn't matter. But like average about 100, sometimes 150. And if we make like 100, 150 and don't even know what we're doing, like it doesn't happen. It will figure itself out. So I made a case study. So these are old works, like 2004 to 2005. There's like Financial Times magazine in UK hire me for like spot illustrations, which are like, you know, small on the page and like, you know, usually overnight to 2 days work, very quick. Budget is low, but they assign me total of 42 illustrations in a year and a half. And as long as, because the budget was low and deadline was tight, as long as they're publishable, they're really happy. So I will go very quickly. I'll show you everything that I did that year and a half. And most of these are almost, none of them are on my website. So in some of them, like, you know, I open up a file and like, God, I haven't seen these in 20 years. And some of them are embarrassing. So like, I made it really small. But anyway, you know, what's the point of not showing everything, right? Like, so here they are, almost done, almost done, almost done. Are we there yet? 42 is a lot. Okay, almost. Almost. Okay, so that was the last one. And so I picked a few. On the right side, 3 are some of the last ones. On the left side, the 2 are some of the early ones. It's me, so I see the left 2 and I see myself and like, yeah, I made that. But if you see my website today, you will not gonna think those are made by me. So here's what happened. You know, like when I started working, this like line work, like sort of comic book style, like flat color thing was becoming very popular. I entered the field in a very good time. So it was easy to establish my career because that was the style that was becoming very popular. But I didn't do it because that was popular. I did it because you've seen my work from 17. Like, this is how I draw. And so these are what I did. And then within like a year, I started getting emails from people like, hey, we're doing the same thing, so you seem to get more work. Like, what are you doing differently? Like, can you give me tips? And then like, I was like, oh my God, you know, like I'm starting to get into this like whole big group of people doing the same thing. I have to change myself. So using this job, I started to experiment. And then if you look at, this is one of the last one, and on the left is the work I did last year. It started to be very similar because I was able to use this job to experiment and use like, you know, like started to use different papers so the lines are not as clean and started to scan in textures to add more worms to make the handmade feel, sanded the drawing to get the feel of old work. Like all these experiments I use now, some worked out, some didn't, some I have to did, some I carried on. But I was able to experiment. And if you do like 42 and you review each one, you get a lot of things done. So if you make enough work, it figures it out. I mean, again, it's simply said than done. So I did from my experience, broken it down to things maybe you can use. So start, finish, review, repeat. And also, like, I will go a little bit more in details. So I wanted to do bigger work, like I'm teaching senior students right now, and then they're working on senior thesis. And their tendency is they really want to make big work because it's their thesis and it's important. And I was like, hey, stop, because you can only review your work to get better. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? How can I do better to get the next work better? Only if you finish. And if you have mad big work, like how many can you finish? So I wanted to do big work when I was graduating too. So it was like 6 feet drawing. I mean, I finished it, but I was miserable because like, I don't know, like I don't have enough time to do more thesis. There are a number of works that you have to complete, right? And then I got advice and like, hey, why don't you start small? So I switched to these 12-inch papers, and I bought a stack of round papers, handmade beautiful papers. And I made a lot of mistakes, but here are some of them. So like, how many of these small drawings can I do while I'm struggling on one of those big drawings? Probably like 30, those to do one, maybe more, maybe less. But like, when we start and finish, finish is very important, because sometimes we abandon work, but if we don't finish work, we don't know what we did right and wrong. And that is the most important thing. So finish the work and avoid large-scale works in the beginning. And then let's review, what did I do right, what did I do wrong, and then how can I improve? And the next most important thing is the honest peers. If your peers are telling you like, your work is always great, that looks great, what do you learn? When we are in school, there are teachers, hard teachers say like, you have to fix this, what is your composition, what is this color, like work on this, redo this. Hard, tough love helps, but when we're out of school, it's the peers. You don't have to be friends with everyone in school, but there are a few, and then of course, maybe like, I didn't go to school, I don't have anyone around. There's an online community. Like internet can be both good and bad, but you can find peers, you can find people who you can be honest with, and they can be honest to you too. And this is one of the things I learned in school, and like the teacher said, like, you have to tell your friends, the artist friend you trust, you have to be honest with me. What do you think about what I did? And you do the same to them. And that is a very, very, very valuable advice. And then you keep repeating and going. So try out new mediums and styles, right? Like it's important to do when we're starting out. So like I'm really proud of, I made this all on my keynote. If you're a graphic designer, I know like, don't judge. It's just what is important is what is in here. So should I learn this? I'll be a better artist if I learn this. Like, let's do this. It's so simple. And if you know this doesn't add anything to it, like, don't be a generalist. Like, you only have to be good at something. So, like, don't waste your time. Use your time in a better way. And this is important. Like, this doesn't help, but I rather learn something that will help me, and let's learn that. And so, like, in my case, like, we can talk about it outside of this talk, but I don't know how to do Western perspective, but I'm an artist, so like, illustrator, I have to do perspective. So I learned the Japanese way of perspecting instead, and I can do it pretty well, although I can't do the Western perspective because mathematical perspective I thought wouldn't add anything to me, but the other thing does. So knowing that is important. Like, okay, when you don't know or like no idea, like let's try that. And if you love it, keep doing, learning more things. But what we can't forget is when you try something new and hated it, it's not the waste of time. And sometimes when we're building who we are as artists, creatives, like we have too many choices. Like picking is one way, eliminating is another. So trying out something didn't work out, cross it out, I never have to do it again, is as important as learning new things. And can I just skip to the good part? Like, sorry, it doesn't work that way. No shortcut. Okay, so about pigeonholing, how do you start? How do you get your work out there? And I'll show you a little bit of my work. Again, it's not show and tell, so it's just as samples. So I do a lot of things, right? Like I started like probably 100% magazine and then comic books, like entertainment, like book covers and sometimes type. This is a pop-up book. It was pretty fun. 3D. It's actual, not 3D built on the computer. It's an actual vinyl toy. And then like I'm like, I never done like kids stuff, so maybe I can do kids-related work, so I do kids books. And yes, I have actually made diapers, you all. I have one pack left, so unopened, email me. Because what do I do? That's sitting in my studio. But anyway, like murals, I didn't paint them, I just designed them. So anyway, I do everything, and like, of course, like when we're starting out as creatives, like we say like, we want to do everything. But Yuko, you do everything, so can I do everything as well? Like, no, that's not how I started. So how I started is how I started. I can draw cute girls, that's one. I can do Japanese stuff, that's two. Cute girls, give me, YA books, magazines for like teenage girls, which doesn't really exist anymore, but like, those things did exist. And then like soon I figured out men's magazines also need cute girls. And like, sure, bring on, I need money, I need income, I need exposure, like give those to me, I can do that. And so like, what started off as like like I thought like I can get the teenage jobs and turned it into men's jobs, and suddenly because I've been drawing all these figures, like I started to be able to do like super elaborate things. And it didn't just start, it's the accumulation of things doing. And suddenly, I'm not known as person who do cute girls, but Yuko does figure in any position and actions really well. And so it started to evolving into things that I do now. So here's the drawing commission I did recently. So like, I can do ugly old men in a beautiful way with this like giant squid too. So another one. So I still do cute girls every now and then. Like it's my selling point. Like why do I give it up? It's not my favorite thing to do, like cute girls, because I feel like I can do way more than that. But hey, still. So okay, I can draw Japanese stuff. Japanese stuff, Japanese stuff, Japanese stuff, Japanese stuff. You can, Godzilla is a Japanese stuff too. Like, kids book, but Japanese stuff. Like Michael Jordan, but Japanese stuff. Mutant Ninja Turtles, but Japanese stuff. Red Hot Chili Peppers, Japanese stuff. And like, hey, like you can do waves, okay. And then like, you can draw sea, yeah, and then started suddenly changing into different things. And I even did this like, like projection immersive experiencing. So what started off as Japanese things, imitating the Japanese big wave thing, turned into like, I'm having really fun drawing waves in different styles. And now this, and of course I still do Japanese theme work, because why don't I use my selling point? But what I'm trying to say here is it is important to start almost pigeonholed, not pigeonholed. Like if it's too narrow, they can't use you. But if it's too broad, they can't remember you. So you have to find something distinctive that people remember you. So they get to be known as, oh, he, she, they are an artist who creates this and that, at least two things, this and that, Cute girls and Japanese things we can call Yuko. And that's how things started. And once we're known for them, we start to think of how can we branch out from there. And then keep going. So, I can only speak from my experience, right? Like I'm an illustrator who do work with my name and style attached. And there are, of course, we're in LA, and I'm sure there are a lot of you who are from LA, and key art and concept art is like really big. And that becomes a whole different genre because you have to have impeccable skill to change things around to meet the client's need. But I can't talk for that world because that's not the world I work in. So if that's the world you're interested in, I'm sure there are speakers who talk about that as well. But as an illustrator, artist, creator who work with our name attached to illustration or not, like we don't need to and we shouldn't get good at everything. We should only get good at very small number of things, but get really good at it and then have that stick in the potential client's head. Because how do we get hired? When a client say, oh, there's a new ad campaign, there's this new book cover, who's the right person? Oh, I remember that creator who makes this or that great. And that's how you get work. So make the work stick. I am taking too much time because we only have 18 minutes. And sorry, why overly ambitious is good is, we'll talk about that. So when I started working, I made a goal, and it's a kind of a broad goal, and I want to be someone who's respected by those who I respect. That's my ultimate goal. And it doesn't have to be your goal, it's just my goal. So then I have to make it more visualized. What does it mean? And I'm already working as a professional artist, so I can't use the people who are in my field. So I started to come up with who are the people I think are the coolest? I actually wanted to draw Freddie Mercury too. One, I ran out of time, but two, Freddie Mercury only looks like Freddie Mercury from the sideways. And I have face blind disorder, so I don't know people's faces. So it's really impossible for me to draw him. But consider he is here. And why I'm sidetracking with this is I'm face blind, they look like them. That means if I can do it, anyone can do it, right? We just have to learn. So anyway, so when you I want to be like the originals, someone who do cool things. And they made good albums, they made not so good albums, but they always experimented and good work. And so, you don't know, you're not supposed to know who that is. The trendy people tend to get more money, right? If that's what you want to be committed, I'm not that person. And then, of course, these three legends are famous, but considering I don't know, Beyonce is billionaire, they're not as rich, but being successful and known and respected as who they are. And why I use them is, so I teach for 20 years, and my illustration students have celebrity portraiture in their portfolio always, and they change over time because the age group change, right? The generation change. But they always have those people every generation think are cool, and those are, there are more of them, but I picked 3 out of that. So anyway, when it comes to respect, who gets more respect? And that's how I want it to be. So deciding where you want to be and committed is very, very important. For me, that's where I want to be. And of course, that's where I want to be because who doesn't want more money, right? But not for the money's sake, but respect first. Trend is short-lived, right? Like trend come and go. My students do, this portrait or that portrait. Next year, like they're new people. But if you're cool, there is no age limit. David Bowie was cool. Like he passed away when he was like 70 something, right? Like he was still cool, and that's how I would love to be. And I think when you're trendy, you always have to seek for the attention, and that again, if that's what you want, like go for it. But like it can get exhausting. So I can age gracefully and get my work better, and I want to be cool. And I think that's kind of like a nice way to go. But like, regardless of what you do, be honest to who you are and let yourself shine your work. And, like with the social media, it's really hard to not think about how many likes you have. Does this work get more likes than that work? How is that person getting more likes? I know I get distracted too. But I think at the end of the day, it's more important to make work that makes us happy, because like who are these imaginary people who audience we're creating work for? Imaginary people are imaginary. You only need few people who love your work to get your career started. So the importance of ambition. Anyone is in animation field or, do not judge what you see, because I made everything on Keynote. So this is I know, do not judge, okay? So ambition, my instructor said, have a high ambition, because if your ambition is high, you work really, really, really hard. You don't get to the top, but you get pretty high. That's great. If your ambition is low, you don't even work hard. And then, you don't even get to the top of your low ambition. So like, what is more important? Oops, sorry. And then, bonus homework from the same professor. This really worked for me. Like write about perfect day, exactly 5 years from today, from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, with as much details as possible how your life you would like it to be. And it's a creative writing, but it really is a great way for us to get the vision of where we want to be. So I majored in business, right? Like 1 year, 3 years, short time, like maybe too realistic, like, oh, I'm a barista right now, like that's not fun, right? But then like 10 years, I won Academy Award, like that might be, like, yeah, it's possible, but like that might be too much. So like 5 years is a really good start. When I started, I was super eager. Like it's embarrassing. Like I had a list of clients I wanted to work with. My joy was crossing it out one by one. So this list, why I have the circle on the DC Comics is this is from some presentation I did like 15 years ago. And I was like, there was a list, I dragged that file, so I think, I ended up working with DC Comics after, so hey, thank you. But anyway, that's not the point. Like crossing out, if you're not eager in the beginning, who will care for you? Because it's your career, so you gotta care. But I'm not saying hobby is not good. Like if you want to keep your art, creativity as a hobby, I think there is such valid thing for not chasing money. But I'm mostly giving advice for you as like a creative career. So like, yeah, it's important to cross things out. But at some point, we can't cross everyone out. And if everyone likes your work, again, going back to like social media and all that too, nobody loves your work. So what is more important is we only need small number of people who love our work, not like, love our work. Everyone else can hate, sorry. hate the hell out of your work and it's all okay, right? And also, as a teacher, although you're not my student or anything, I've seen so many young creatives, and it doesn't matter if you're talented or not. Of course, it doesn't matter. If you're talented, work super, super hard, good for you. You're in this golden path, and I'm so happy for you. But most of the people, like looking back, who I taught, like who succeeded in anything, regardless of illustration, or some people like pursued like career as a like owner chef. One of my first students went back to Mexico and opened up an award-winning restaurant. So like, hey, whatever that is, like they're committed. And commitment, doing the work, making the like 100 work a year and making great portfolio. And those are the people who make it and not the people who are just talented, don't work. So what is this? This is the job I recently got killed, and I put a lot of effort into it. It is the book cover of the upcoming book that comes out with not my cover. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but if you pay attention to the upcoming trendy Japanese fiction, you will know what it is. But anyway, it's okay. It is hard to get work killed, yes, but it's also like part of the process. So like why I'm showing this is like maybe you think like, oh, she's doing it for 20 years. Everything must be easy. Like, no, I get jobs killed all the time. And it still hurts a little bit because I really wanted to do this cover. I even read the book before I got assigned this. So like, I love the book, and then I unfollow the author because I mean, like, it's okay, right? Like, she freaking hated my work. So, like, art director loved my work, and they were like, editorial, everyone loves your work, but the author freaking hated your work. So, like, it's okay for not to follow, but we gotta get used to it because it's just life. I get jobs killed, you get jobs killed. It's not personal. Again, we only need few number of people who want to work with us. So the art director felt really bad, and I said, like, listen, it's not your fault, it's fine, it was a pleasure working with you. And he called me right before I came in, like, well, I'm sorry that happened a few months ago. We have a new project and we won't get killed. So hey, So with that, this, again, my like corporate presentation matrix of who gets work. This is my biggest accomplishment of this talk. You do incredible work. Your work is not good. You're such a diva, and you're a delight to work with. So here we go. Right? Do I need to even? So like, this one is a little tricky one. I don't recommend anyone to be here because, yeah, if your work is freaking incredible, they will tolerate you, but they freaking hate you, right? Like, why do you want to be? So, like, this is what you want to be. You're in demand. Like, you don't have to do incredible. So what I want everyone to know is we should aim high, but we don't have to hit, like, we all want to be a star, but we don't need to be a star. If you hit the blue box, you're like really, really nice and to work with. Don't be a pushover, but like be nice, good communicator, easy to work with, easy to communicate with, and you do more than average work. And that's where to start. And so when we just think about like being the star, like it might be too overwhelming. So we just have to hit that. I know everyone wants to take photo. Oh, like I want you to take photo because it took me a while to make this. So like, I only have 6 minutes, but I want you to, did you take photos? Can I move? Okay. So, and, like we get jobs killed, all that, but I also feel like it is important sometimes to say no. Like nobody's paying my bills. Like, I have to get all those jobs to pay my bills and feed my puppy, old puppy. But Yeah, I sometimes say no. Like, of course, when the money is most important thing, I need to pay that bill and I need that job, every job, then I would do. But at some point, okay, like, is this right for me? Is this ethical for me? Me personally, like I can't, like it's streamlined, so I can't, often give examples, but you can ask me later on, like I can't. Too many people are watching, so you figure out what your moral compass is, but and it's okay because, oh, this is so not right for me. I can't go to sleep if I took this job because I feel like I sold my soul to the devil. But there are other people who have different way of thinking. I'm not dissing anyone, like everyone's different, right? Like, so if it's not right for me and I can't sleep because of that, let it go and then have someone who will be happy to do that, take that job. And also, this email is actually right when I was making this presentation. So it happened like last week. Like, there's a nice job coming. I can't do it. Then I tried to recommend someone who might be right. Like, they didn't take this person. They were like, thank you. Like, that was really nice advice, but like, we will keep them in mind, but this time, no. But like, it's fine. And often they will hire them too. And what is very important is help others, especially newcomers. It's good karma and also good for the whole industry. Why? Oh my God, I only have 3 minutes. Why is it good for the whole industry? Because I'm here, standing here, doing this for 20 years, not because I'm amazing. I got helped by everyone, and including the people I never met. Oh, like I'm too busy to take the job, but there's a young artist, like, who's trying hard, so like she probably needs work, so like give it to her. And then I can't give back to them, so what we do, because it's not just me, right? A lot of us were helped. We help the next generation. And then they were helped, so they help the next generation. Because why do you want to work in the industry where everyone's like, I'm gonna get that one's job, she will get my job? Like, you don't want to work in the industry. The best way to start is to help and help the next generation. So there's this mess of like, there's a limited pie of like creative jobs, and then we're fighting over it, and maybe the established people are taking all the jobs and gatekeeping. Like, I'm sorry, that's like, can I say? Like, I'm sorry, I learned my English in New York, so I talk like a New Yorker with a Japanese accent. So why I say when everyone does good work, the pie gets bigger. So, when I took the interactive projection job, I was like really scared, but like I should do this because, of course, it works for my ego. But if I do a good job and then like, hey, working with illustrators and doing these interactive things are great, and then other people will get job and other people will get job, right? So like that's just one example. But what is important is we all do good work and the pie expand. Maybe I'm a dreamer, but like I want the happy world, right? And so like let's all do the good work. And also, we can't always hit home run. We're not Shohei Ohtani. So we can't always hit home run, but what we can do is we do the best within what we can do the best, because we can't figure out how it will get received. So the best we can do is do the good job. And oh my God, like 1 minute. I have to. I did the rehearsal with my students twice, and I finished it within 1 hour. Okay, so illustrator's job is problem solving. World loves photography way more than illustration, so let's at least make the work that photos cannot create. And I'm not just talking about like the work that is surreal, like what I do, but like come up with ideas and then I come up with sketches and that feel like that will look better in photo, that won't work. And when there's 14 seconds left, I don't know if I get cut off, but Adobe let me talk about AI. So like, let's quickly do this. They looked at my slides like 10 times and they say, okay, so what is important is to combat generative AI is like we have to create with unpredictability. And because they do best the predictability. Like I'm getting worse because like the counter clock stopped. So the unique ideas win, and then the time for some tough love. Mediocre is what the Gen I do best. So we, like all these anime art, why there are so many Gen AI, Miyazaki portrait, whatever, is that there is so much to scrape off internet. And those things, that genre is already better in AI. Like, let's face it. Like, I've seen some anime manga, crazy good AI work. So we really have to push, not outward, but like inward, like who is me, what I can create that is unpredictable. And then let's stay being weird friends. And then like what, but like I get this comment all the time for trolls and like it drives me crazy. And then like, yeah, so everything has been done. Like, okay, like, I know you don't do anything because people do something, won't say this. So, okay, if everything has been done, but we can still make fresh work. It might not be new, but fresh. That's where we're going for. And don't be that bitter guy. It's almost done, almost done, almost done, okay? Small things that keeps me happy. One, take out these small creative risks every single day. If I take like 10% of tiny, tiny risks, it makes the creating process exciting. And then I get better a little bit. I do 10 work. I'm in the next level, right? And then this is my first ever job. Oh my God. But, oh my God, it's so bad. That means I got better. Look at the brighter side, yes? And then like, the often asked question, what is the work that I'm the most proud of? And I'm not being cheeky or anything, but if I don't think I will create something better in the future, what's the point of keep creating? I would rather be doing something else. So I don't know if that's gonna happen or not, but that's the attitude, and I think that really helps me. When the work gets slow, like right now, politically, economically, it's very, very like weird time. And do I freak out? Yes, my job prospect or income is not as good as last year, let's be honest. And a lot of us, if you're doing great, I'm so happy for you, but we can just freak out or use that chance to make work. I have like 10 years in planning that I have never had time for because, again, I have to pay my bills and jobs coming and I can't say no, right? So passion projects are not just good for us, but if we create something we really want to create personally, and then you create the body of work, we can use that to promote something that you haven't done before, you haven't gotten the project before. So this is a project I started recently. I'm just on my first one. I'm trying to illustrate all the Aesop fables because everything we need to be a good human was written by a slave from like 2,000 years ago, and humans never learn. So it is really nice to read those and come out with like fun. So this one is supposed to be, when it's finished, sour grapes, there's gonna be grapes. But anyway, never prioritize efficiency over the favorite part of your creative process, regardless of how efficient that is. Like, my drawings takes, okay, like, it's not TV. A lot of time, it's okay, because if I try to create something more like, like simpler graphic work that some of my peers create that I love, it's not gonna look like me, it's not gonna look good. So do I love to draw with ink and brush on paper? Yes. Should I switch to old digital because it's much faster? By the way, I color on Photoshop, but everything's done with brush on paper. So I won't, because I love what I love and the rest is work. Why do I give up? And the lastly, finally, it's ending. So I freaking hate those, like, when you love your work, you will never work in a day. It's so hard. And I'm doing this for 20 years, and it's still hard. Sometimes I want to cry. I wake up in the middle of the night with like cold sweat. Oh my God, right? But why do I still do this? Because I love it more than anything. And if I do what I love, it's not because it's eternal happiness, but because we can get through the times that is tough. So with that, sorry, I went over 5 minutes. I'm so sorry. And there's one last thing right here. I teach on Skillshare inking and drawing class. And this is the longest amount of time you get for free. And I have to be very honest, I don't get a penny out of like promoting this promo code. And also, one last thing is like my friend in Japan created this outfit. And you can get yours too. It's from like 1980s Japanese advertising banners. And look, Betamax, remember? So if you want yours, that's her Instagram on the bottom. So thank you so much.